The superficiality of existence is thriving. Money seems to be the greatest value in life, and with it naturally goes power, position, and the sorrow of it all. I would like to understand, not merely intellectually or descriptively, why, with so many others, I dread the ending of life. We kill so easily. It is called blood sport. Shooting birds for amusement, to show off one's skill, chasing the fox, killing the things of the sea. Death seems to be everywhere. Man throughout all the ages has never really solved or understood the thing called death. I have studied various religions and scientific rationalizations, beliefs, and they assume realities. Some of them are logical, comforting, but the fact remains that there is always the fear of the unknown. Doubt is a precious thing. It cleanses, purifies the mind. The very questioning, the very fact that the seed of doubt is in one, helps to clarify our investigation. Not only doubting what all the others have said, including the whole concept of regeneration and the Christian belief and dogma of resurrection, but also the Asiatic world's acceptance that there is continuity. In doubting, questioning all that, there is a certain freedom which is necessary for our inquiry. If one can put all that aside, not simply verbally, but negate all that deep within oneself, then one has no illusion. There must be freedom of opinion and judgment, for then only can one deliberately, actually, hesitantly explore into the meaning of daily living and dying, existence and the end of existence. If one is prepared for this, or if one is willing, or even better, if one is deeply concerned to find out the truth of the matter, living and dying is a very complex problem, an issue that requires a very careful examination. Where should we begin? With life or with death? With living or with the ending of that which we call living? How is the psyche, the ego, the self, the I, the person put together? How has this thing come into being, from which arises the concept of the individual, the me, separate from all others? We will use the word self to include the person, the name, the form, the characteristics, the ego. How is this self born? Does the self come into being with certain characteristics transmitted from the parents? Is the self merely a series of reactions? Is the self merely the continuity of centuries of tradition? Is the self put together by circumstances, through accidents, happenings? Is the self the result of evolution? Evolution being the gradual process of time, emphasizing, giving importance to the self? Or are some maintain, especially the religious world, does the outward shell of the self really contain within itself the soul? Does the self come into being through the society which man has created, which gives strength to the formula that we are separate from the rest of humanity? All these have certain truths in them, certain facts, and all these constitute the self. And the self has been given tremendous importance in this world. The expression of the self in the democratic world is called freedom, and in the totalitarian world that freedom is suppressed, denied, and punished. So would you say that instinct begins in the child with the urge to possess? This also exists in animals, so perhaps we have derived from the animals this instinct to possess. Where there is any kind of possession, there must be the beginning of the self. And from this instinct, this reaction, the self gradually increases in strength, in vitality, and becomes well established. The possession of a house, the possession of land, the possession of knowledge, the possession of certain capacities, all this is the movement of the self. And this movement gives the feeling of separateness as the individual. Now you can go much further into details. Is the you, the self, separate from the rest of mankind? Are you, because you have a separate name, a separate physical organism, certain tendencies different from another's, perhaps a talent, does that make you an individual? This idea that each one of us throughout the world is separate from another, is that an actuality? Or may the whole concept be illusory, just as we have divided the world into separate communities, nations, which is really a glorified form of tribalism? This concern with oneself and the community being different from other communities, other selves, is that in actuality real? Of course, you may say it is real because you are an American and others are French, Russian, Indian, Chinese, and so on. This linguistic, cultural, religious difference has brought about chaos in the world, terrible wars, incalculable harm. Of course, in certain aspects, there is great beauty in the expression of certain talents, as a painter, a musician, a scientist, and so on. Would you consider yourself as a separate individual with a separate brain which is yours and nobody else's? It is your thinking, and your thinking is supposedly different from another's. But is thinking individual at all? Or is there only thinking, which is shared by all humanity, whether you are the most scientifically talented person or the most ignorant, primitive? All these questions and more arise when we are considering the death of a human being. So, would you, looking at all these, the reactions, the name, the form, the possessiveness, the impulse to be separate from another, sustained by society and by religion, would you, in examining all this logically, sanely, reasonably, consider yourself to be an individual? This is an important question in the context of the meaning of death. The fact, the observable, rational fact, is that your thinking and the thinking of another are similar. The expression of your thinking may vary. You may express something in one way if you are an artist, and another person who is not an artist may express it in another way. Our tradition is that, our conditioning is that, we are educated to that. I'm an Arab, you are a Jew, and so on. And from this division there arises not only individuality, but the communal racial difference. The individual identifying himself with a community, with a nation, with a race, with a religion, invariably brings conflict between human beings. It is a natural law. But we are only concerned with the effects, not with the causes of war, causes of this division. We share, all humanity shares, the sunlight. that sunlight is not yours or mine, it is the life-giving energy which we all share.